Alrighty, welcome back everyone. It is LaughNgamez here. I'm back with another Starcraft 2 1 versus 1 bot AI cast. And we have got ourselves what should be a good one here today, as it is another bot author recommended replay. So somebody looked at this match ahead of time and said, hey, that's pretty cool, check it out. And so that's exactly what we're going to do today. We've got Arty, a Terran bot in the blue trunks, going to be taking on Sludge-Revived, which is a very good name for a Zerg bot, I feel. So, yeah, we're going to see how well these two do against each other. I personally have never cast Sludge. I believe I've cast Arty in the past. And yeah, ladies and gentlemen, before we get too far into this one, make sure to go ahead and click that like button if you haven't already. Give it a click, give it a clack, give it a slap, whatever it may be. If we can hit 15 likes on this video, that would be amazing. Join the Discord, which is linked down below if you want to become part of the community. And leave a comment saying more bots if you do want to see more of these bot games. That goes a long way to helping with the YouTube algorithm. We do have an interesting build from Arty, going for a command center first, and then a racks in the wall. So playing it a little bit greedy, which I'm a fan of. The cheeses are rarer than you'd think in these bot matches, which I think makes them all the better to watch, because we really get to see how these bots develop. And then we do have an SCV scout for Arty, so maybe it wouldn't have gone for that CC, or it would have adjusted its build if it did see it was up against like a pool first or something like that. But it is just a normal macro opening. The drone for Sludge chased that SCV away and then is like, okay, I'm not going further than that, and then just decides to go on home. But then it decides to go back out. Interesting place for this drone to hang out. Maybe it's going to be building that third base. We'll have to wait and see. It does want to go back, and then it keeps just getting assigned to be put in random locations. This drone is very interesting. It's just like, yeah, I'm just hanging out. Meanwhile, we have got Arty just being unbelievably greedy, going for an incredibly fast third command center, making just one Marine out of its barracks. 3 CCs are common out of Terrans in this day and age, but this is beyond greedy in the sense of getting one before any gas, any factory, that kind of thing. So Arty is definitely being a bit of a greedy bot. And yeah, now we have got Sludge just doing its thing. That drone did end up moving on. We've got Speed about to finish up for the Zerg, but I mean, as far as economy goes, Sludge isn't in the best position because it's just macroing at a reasonable rate, whereas Arty is going for an extreme amount of macro, making Marines potentially en masse here as it builds 3 racks, so just mass minerals so far, not a single gas taken, just non-upgraded Marines. We're gonna see if Arty is just gonna go for a mass Marine strategy off the back of this strong economy it's got. The barracks in the wall lifts up and then just lowers, so a barracks wall, which is cool to see. Unfortunately, it does mean that SCV can't get in while these racks are producing something. That third command center is now done for the Terran, and we are getting gas up all of a sudden. So as that third CC, third orbital finished, gas started for Arty, so it isn't going to make just non-upgraded Marines. It's going to be spending that gas on something else. While this is going on, Sludge as well is just getting up a Roach Warren, getting up its own economy, its own gas. And yeah, Roaches will definitely be helpful here against Marines that currently don't have any upgrades. I mean, once they've got Combat Shield, if Arty starts making Marauders, Roaches all of a sudden fall off. But for now, they're definitely a darn good tool for the Zerg bot. We've got more gases going up for Arty, just macroing away with a handful of lings out on the map, running all over the place, scouting all over the place too. So it's good to see both of these bots have done some scouting. Arty is still just making its mass Marines though, currently up to 10, getting a factory on the way finally though. The production is a little bit tight in this natural base, I'll say. We've got 4 racks, a 3rd command center, and a factory just all crammed in to this natural base. And yeah, SCVs are starting to get stuck for Arty, so we'll see how many are going to build up there, whether it has got good behavior to get those units unstuck, and if it'll lift off something. And oh, it actually does. There we go. The command center is going to fly on over towards that 3rd base, get landed. Meanwhile, we've got Sludge investing in an overseer, whereas Arty has just got a 4th command center on the way. Lifts off all its racks and is now moving the wall, which is actually really darn cool. To really secure this position up, Arty's just moving its wall. It's going into double or triple factory production as it builds a 2nd and 3rd factory. So potentially pivoting away from what I thought was going to be mass bio into whatever may come out of these factories. So as the barracks seem to be on wall duty, not necessarily production duty, we do have Sludge now making lots and lots of roaches, so potentially going to be getting a little bit aggressive here. Unfortunately, with Arty producing tanks, that is a bit of a hard counter to mass roach, so I'm a bit concerned here for Sludge. I do think that both these bots, as far as being lesser known bots, seem to be playing quite nicely. However, tanks are now on the way out for Arty. There's already 1 out. There's going to be a 2nd and a 3rd out soon enough. This is concerning, seeing as how there's this big wall for Arty. The tank movement is very, very curious. It has yet to siege on up, but Arty is just going into mass mech. So it's been turtling, playing it greedy, getting up at that 4th command center, and these roaches are going to have a tough time breaking through this wall. We've actually got a bit of glitching from Sludge here as it kind of falls victim to the default Starcraft 2 pathing, or maybe some messy pathing of its own. That depot lowering and raising messed with it a little bit. We do have the tanks actually push Sludge away. Now we are seeing this red Zerg though go into a Hydra Den, which I'm a big fan of because it means that Sludge isn't just some basic bot that's going to build only roaches. We've now got Ravagers being produced. Ravagers, which of course are much better against tanks than roaches, that corrosive bile. Most StarCraft 2 players know that magic number, 3 corrosive biles to kill off a siege tank. And we'll see if Sludge is going to make good use of those or not. For now, it is just getting up its own 4th base, whereas Arty's securing its own 4th. So economy-wise, things aren't great for the Zerg bot, but it's not in the worst position possible, as we do have Transfer Smart Servos on the way, and then just Hellions now being produced 1-1, but 1-1 also on the way for the Zerg. In goes Sludge, moving forward, but then eating some nasty tank shots. The corrosive biles really haven't killed too much. The tanks are just forming a bit of a line once they actually get set up. It's going to be pretty much impassable for Sludge. Sludge is going to toss down some corrosive biles. Doesn't quite connect with any Marines. Did get 1 or 2 off on a siege tank though, which is cool to see. The tank is being repaired by an SCV, so good behavior there. And man, oh man, is my game actually lagging a little bit from all of this like stuttering movement of Arty? This is interesting. This is like slightly different unit movement than the movement that bots usually have. Like Arty is stuttering its units an incredible amount. Now, who knows? Maybe that's just my PC getting a little old, as it has. It's got a lot of StarCraft 2 games on it at this point. We've got 4th base up for Sludge, getting up a 5th on the way. Hydras are now being produced. Hydras are good units, but they still don't really help contend with mass siege tanks, which is why I was potentially hoping to see Vipers or something to deal with the mass tanks, as just charging headfirst into what is now 10 siege tanks will not work for Sludge. Sludge at least does have the good sense to pull back before it loses too much. It had a few roaches that got glitched and stuck there that didn't get too much done, but it also hasn't lost too much and is now approaching max out, which I'm a big fan of. This depot raising and lowering is really messing with Sludge. Sludge moves on in, corrosive biles go down. They hit one of the siege tanks, but anything that is actually in range of those tanks is really getting deleted here. We've now got Thors on the way for Arty, which I'm a big fan of. I do like my Thor bots. Meanwhile, an Infestation Pit and a Spire are on the way for Sludge. That's cool to see. I'm gonna have to take a deeper look at Sludge here, maybe at the end of this replay, to see if the bot author has any other bots that have been written, whether it's a variant of any bot, because Sludge seems very well rounded for a bot that I've never seen before. Now, we do have these roaches and hydras moving on out. Hellbats are leading the charge, but the problem is the tanks are inching closer and closer, and well, they're inching pretty quickly. Corrosive Bile does kill off one of the tanks, which is nice. However, Arty is replacing them as it builds 4 more. 2/2 upgrades are on the way for the Zerg, same for the Terran. A Spire is on the way. Now, there is a distinct lack of anti-air for this blue Terran bot, so we'll see if potentially Mutas can ruin its day. But oh man, there's the engagement as the Hydras and Roaches get too close to the tanks and just get cut up. Reinforcements being caught could be a problem for Arty. We have seen the Hydras get some pickoffs on the tanks. It's not like Sludge is taking a terrible trade, and the tanks do unsiege. In goes Sludge, and it's actually getting on top of quite a few of these tanks as it has a nice concave. A bit of units bogging down on the left side here, but man, oh man, what an engagement by Sludge to kill all those tanks. I think Arty wasn't quite set up well enough to defend that. And now all of a sudden, oh man, Sludge, don't corrosive bile your own units. Man, oh man, yeah, that fight did not go as well as it should have for Arty, but wait, no, Sludge, what are you doing? Why are you corrosive biling that spot? Oh, Sludge. And now let's see, the red Zerg is trying to crash the gates once more. However, Arty does have this very strong defensive position. There is enough tanks to form a backline to defend as Arty's had good production behind this. We are seeing that greater Spire be produced, though. Corruptors have already been built, plus 3 attack upgrades are on the way for Sludge. And we are getting a 6 base up. A 6th and a 7th for Sludge, 80 workers. And yeah, I am starting to think that Sludge is potentially a variant of another bot or something, because like it is playing the late game incredibly well for a bot that I've never seen. And so yeah, I am wondering about that. I may actually just pull that up right now if I can. We'll see. As we do have a second of downtime. Just clicking on that AI Arena. Sludge-Revived. Made by Housebots. Open sourced and revived in 2021 for Housebot usage with support for maps. Updated in June 2024 with support and Python. So, that's actually very cool. I don't think that this is a bot. The bot authors do have lots of different entries, like so many entries. And they may be part of Sharpbot, but anyway, no, that's incredibly cool. So it isn't like a variant of any of the other big Zergs. It's just a really good looking Zerg bot. Now, we do have these Corruptors hanging over a hatchery as Sludge attempts to take the space, but I'm not sure that's going to happen as Arty moves on down. And we have got now mass planetaries going down for Arty, so really, really hunkering down on 4 bases. Man, oh man. Arty is playing the turtle defense like I'd like to see some pro Terrans play, with 4 planetaries on the way up, because we do see pro-human players sometimes build just like 1 planetary and then it dies, and it's like, man, you got 4,000 minerals in the bank, just build a couple more. And now Arty is coming across the map though, looking for blood. There is a Broodlord being produced, and there's already 7 out. So this could potentially cause big problems for Arty. Of course, Sludge is taking some damage from this attack. However, there's the Broodlings now getting on top of the tanks, and the Broodlords are good against one thing. It is against siege tanks, as those tanks will just shoot each other all day long. This is going to potentially force Arty back, but then it gets kind of tagged by these queens, so the tanks re-siege up. Now, Sludge, is it engaging? It looks like it is grouping the Broodlords with the Hydras, so the Broodlords aren't necessarily going in independently, even though they could clean up all these tanks, but Sludge will still get a total cleanup on this. The Zerg bot does still have the upper right, the bottom left. We've got Arty now having to deal with these Broodlords. It's making Hellions, Thors, and Ghosts, so at least it's paused tank production. It's got all these planetaries to fall back on. We are seeing Sludge move on in for another attack. Hydra's getting on top of Thors is a really important pickoff, seeing as how there's Broodlords to deal with this. And yeah, Roaches and Hydras getting on top of all 3 Thors, killing them off. That is the anti-Broodlord force right there, just gone. 4 more Thors are being produced, but man, what an engagement by Sludge. This orbital command does get found, but Sludge doesn't seem to be too bothered about that right now as it moves towards the bottom left for some reason. Just coalescing on this changeling, it seems. And now, let's see, Broodlord's still just hanging out in the middle of the map, not going for any attacks. We've got another Spire on the way for Sludge, which is interesting. Did it lose its previous one? No, it didn't. It just wants a second Spire for some reason. I wonder if that's like a feature of the bot being like, oh man, I lost, or a bug in the bot being like, oh man, I lost my Spire, as it made it into a greater Spire. And then it's just like, oh, I better rebuild that, because it's not researching any upgrades. Unless it's going to start researching upgrades out of both those Spires, that doesn't make a ton of sense. I would like to see that, though, because upgrades are very good. Sludge has got quite the economy to back it up. We do have Queens just waltzing around all over the place. Meanwhile, Arty has had the opportunity to rebuild most of its army. We've got Ghosts out on the map. There's no cloak for them, though, so we don't need to worry about Overseer positioning for Sludge. But yeah, Thors and Ghosts are pretty darn good against Broodlords, so we'll see if that's going to be enough. However, Roaches and Hydras are good against Thors and Ghosts for the most part. Broodlords do start shooting away as these Roaches and Hydras try and crash the gates, but there is double planetaries there. The Thors and Ghosts really are blocked by Arty's own Sim City. As Hellbats push forward, the Zerg did take quite some losses as it tried to push through that location. The Broodlords are starting to work away on some of these Hellions. Hydras step forward to help with the Thors, which is important because these Thors are 3-3, whereas these Broodlords have no upgrades. They are just terrible against 3-3 Thors without any upgrades of their own, so that is a bit of a weakness in the play of Sludge. It's like fighting with one hand behind its back. We do have SCVs for Arty moving towards the top right, but that location is under occupation. As now we've got Sludge actually making it up this ramp, which is best with its pathing a little bit in the past, but it is forcing Arty off this location towards, well, off the 9 o'clock location. The Thors are now moving out onto the open map, but this is somewhat concerning for Sludge. Broodlords against 3-3 Thors, not the best. It can sometimes be an even trade if both sides have even upgrades, and if there's enough support for the Broodlords, but without any upgrades, this is really concerning for Sludge right now. As, yeah, look at how much damage those Thors in high-impact payload mode do. So Arty's got some great programming when it comes to changing its composition based on what its opponent has. It said, hey, Broodlords, I'll make mass Thors instead of all those useless tanks I was producing. That hatchery gets picked off. We do still have more economic opportunity for Sludge, though, so if this game does go on for a long time, Sludge can potentially take worse trades, mine more than its opponent, and still win the game. And as far as trades go, things are quite even up until this point. 25k loss to 22, just barely in favor for Arty. That is within the realm of acceptability, and it's definitely within the realm of one base will make the difference between this. We do have some Hydras and Roaches for Sludge, seemingly getting caught again, which isn't great. They are going to take a couple Hellbats with them, but they are all going to go down. 5 Hellbats at least is something, but man, oh man, look at all these Thors for Arty. It's up to 16 Thors against 13 Broodlords. That is not enough. This is the point where we see Zergs making Infestors, making Lurkers, making Vipers, whatever it may be. And yeah, that is somewhat concerning here for Sludge. Sludge gonna have to try and mount a defense against this Terran force as in comes Arty. We'll see if the Hydras on the ground can make up the difference between the Thors. The Hydras do have 3-3 upgrades, and they're traditionally pretty good against Thors. Broodlings do get on the ground. This could mess with the attacking of Arty. We'll see if any more big volleys can get off to occupy those Thors. Sludge isn't quite going for the engagement. It goes in and then it goes out. As I don't know if that's just because it sees more of the Thors or something like that. Sludge, yeah, it just gives up 2 bases for now. That is acceptable as it's still got the upper right side. It's still got a bit of a bank and economy to fall back onto. At some point, you got to deal with the elephant in the room that is 16 Thors on the creep. It is kind of funny that Arty hasn't been really caring about creep this game at all. Arty also has built up a lot of energy. It could drop quite a few mules. or scans, whatever it may be. We do have Arty actually electing to go back, though. Sludge, showing some great redundancy, is going to rebuild that one hatchery. We'll see if it rebuilds this other one or not, and to continue that mining. The economic management for Sludge is also not looking perfect, as it does have some idle drones just hanging out here, which is not great. I was going to say it seems to have decent saturation, but that's not the best. We are now having an engagement as the Thors just cut through like so many of the Broodlords in an instant. I think it's like a 3-shot kill on the Broodlords and 16 Thors. You guys do the math. The Hydras really are the only thing carrying this for Sludge. If Sludge was to think about this long and hard, it would just want mass Hydras against these Thors. It's thinking of going on in. It gets the odd volley off. Looks like Broodlords almost kill off the Thor, but not quite. And now that hatchery is going to get killed, not canceled. So there is a few efficiencies that Sludge could benefit from in this match. But, it's playing quite a nice game overall. However, we do take a look. It's being denied another base. Meanwhile, Arty is still just trucking on this good economy it's got. Hydras, once again, these units back themselves into a corner. And, yeah, those just get deleted. So Sludge is really being backed into a wall. We do at least have drones transferring to the upper right, so going to keep the economy of the Zerg going for now. These drones are still just hanging out in the main, which isn't the most efficient thing, as it's also going to be mining out at this natural base soon enough. More and more Hydras are being produced for Sludge. It's 24 Hydras, though, against 17 Thors. So that's quite concerning. We do have Sludge just not even mining off this location, as Hydras are once again backed into a corner, and they seem to just be trapped. Looks like Sludge is thinking about pulling the trigger, but there is a bit of wishy-washiness, meaning that it is just giving away free kills to these Thors. Thors with their high range, their 7 attack range, actually outranges most units in the game, so these Hydras are not even really getting shots off before they die. And it does seem that 16 Thors may be a bit too much for Sludge to handle in this match. More Broodlords won't help at all. It really is just all on the Hydras, but Sludge actually needs to pull the trigger. But whatever math it's got, it's saying, I can't take on this army. It could be an army supply calculation in which it's saying, this guy's got 120 army supply and I've only got 106. I shouldn't engage. But at some point, your bots do just need to actually engage, or they'll just be pushed into corners and die. Like, we're potentially about to see a massacre here if Sludge doesn't actually grow some stones and take a fight. And oh man, yeah, these Hydras, they're just giving up, kinda. They're just laying down their arms and dying. And these Thors are just killing everything. So we do see, after what was honestly quite a great game, just a bit of an underwhelming end, is, yeah, too much supply for Arty, for Sludge to deal with. Sludge maybe needs some defense on its work, because it did have those attacks earlier on, which it committed into situations that weren't optimal. But then just, yeah, Arty is able to take this one, it seems. But I'll say, for two lesser-known bots, incredible programming by the bot authors. Of course, there's little things we notice with Sludge, like the drones just hanging out, like the lack of attack upgrades and the extra spire. But all in all, great fundamentals, and Arty's bot has got a cool playstyle. I mean, you can argue about the efficiency of building 4 planetaries and the playstyle that it did, how greedy it was, but it worked in this game, so well done. Ladies and gentlemen, if you watched all the way to this point in the match, go ahead and click that like button as we watch these Thors delete hatcheries. Leave a comment down below saying more bots if you do want to see more of these bot games, and consider becoming a YouTube member if you do want to support the channel. Everyone that does support the channel, it is greatly appreciated. We are getting to the point that I may be upgrading my PC soon too, so support on that is appreciated. And yeah, we'll just wait for Arty to win this one. It does seemingly decide to go home and give Sludge a chance to rebuild, but I think Sludge just can't handle that many Thors. So maybe putting in some check. I'm assuming that it's army supply being the reason why Sludge didn't want to engage there, that it saw too much enemy army supply, like a lot of bots do, I think. I think a good programming way around that would probably be, if you're a bot author, and have it be like a threshold of like 80. say, or 80 or 100 or 90, somewhere in there, and say, if my bot's got 90 supply, but it's got less supply than my opponent, oh no, just make it take the fight. Have that be a thing, just because there will be situations like this where your opponent just has more supply than you, so your bot will never take the fight and will just lose like Sludge did. I think a good way around that would be to say, hey, I've got all this army supply. It's not necessarily enough to take the fight, but it's still quite a bit of army supply, so make it take the fight. Because right now Sludge is just seeing there's too much supply, so it doesn't want to engage, so it's doing exactly what it's programmed to, and hiding these units in a corner. The rest of these Hydras are now coming on in for Sludge. Maybe they can grab a few Thors. This Zerg bot is still in quite a spot of bother, though. Hydras and Lings are still engaging all over the place. I'll slow this down for a second, but it is still 84 supply as the main base gets ransacked. And yeah, Sludge has got 2 bases. Arty never did take any more bases and doesn't seem to be interested in it, as it hasn't really cleaned up any creep this game, I don't believe. Have any creep tumors died? 6 tumors. I'm guessing they were in the process of spreading when they were killed. But yeah, Sludge just isn't taking the fight it needs. We do see 22 Corruptors get fired up because Sludge says, I can't build anything else. SCVs are now long-distance mining at this other base, which is just comical. Corruptors can't really do anything about that, but Hydras, Lings, and Queens can. We have got, yeah, these Thors actually glitching out hard as they're retargeting so fast for Arty that it is not actually shooting. These Thors are really having a hard time. The Ghosts are going to get it done eventually, though. Thors cleaning out another base. The Corruptors aren't going to do too much here. They can't morph into Broodlords. Not that the Broodlords would have done good against this many Thors anyway. And yeah, what a bit of a goofy end, but very entertaining nonetheless. As we watch these Corruptors swim around, unable to help at all, just getting shot out of the skies. And these Thors are doing their job. 53 kills on that bad boy, 29 on that one. A slow death for Sludge, but yeah, a great game in all. Even Mules dropping. Long distance mining, taking all the money. I like that from Arty, that it's at least got that programmed. If it's not going to take the base, at least get your idle workers trying to bring in what money they can. As long as it doesn't replace the workers that it loses at this point. We do have another command center actually being built, as this base was available. Funnily enough, no creep spread on it, but there's the GG as Arty takes it. I'll see you guys next time. Thanks so much for tuning in.